Have you ever felt like you were absorbing other people's pain, frustrations, and criticism, even when they weren't yours? As if every harsh look, rude comment, or heavy environment drained your inner peace. That's not weakness, it's sensitivity. And when sensitivity isn't guided by wisdom, it turns into vulnerability. But there is a way to remain strong, centered, and immune to negativity, even in the midst of chaos. What if I told you there's an ancient philosophy that teaches exactly that? A life approach so powerful that it gives you the emotional control the world tries to take from you every day. Stoicism isn't about coldness, it's about clarity. It's the art of filtering what enters your mind, protecting your peace, and responding with wisdom instead of reactivity. And that's what we'll explore here, step by step, with transformative techniques. If this topic found you today, maybe it's because your soul is asking for it, because life is trying to show you that you don't protect yourself by running away from the world, but by shielding yourself from within. So if you feel the need to strengthen your mind, free yourself from others' opinions, and stop absorbing energies that aren't yours, this video was made for you. Subscribe now, because what comes next could change how you react and how you live. Technique 1. Stop absorbing everything. You're not anyone's emotional dumping ground. Have you noticed how some people offload their frustrations on whoever's nearby? Sometimes without realizing it, you become the target, listening to complaints, criticisms, veiled demands. And the more empathetic you are, the more likely you are to absorb all of it. Your body aches, your mind gets heavy, your energy sinks. And in the end, you wonder, why do I feel so bad if I didn't even cause the problem? Epictetus said, it's not things that disturb us, but how we react to them. And that's the first Stoic key to avoid being contaminated by other people's negativity. Separate what is yours from what belongs to others. Most of the emotions you carry weren't born in you. Many were delivered, dumped, or projected. Being sensitive doesn't mean being weak, but accepting everything without filters is the perfect path to emotional exhaustion. The technique here is rational distancing. When someone tries to drown you in drama, criticism, or complaints, breathe and remember, this weight isn't mine. That's not selfishness, it's self-care. Just like you wouldn't drink poison to please someone, you shouldn't absorb negativity just to appear empathetic. True compassion has limits. It cares without self-abandonment. In practice, train yourself by asking, is what I'm feeling really mine? If not, let it go. Picture the emotion as smoke. It came, touched you, but it doesn't have to stay. You can observe, understand, and still choose not to retain. That's how emotional immunity is built. You stop being a sponge and become a filter. Nothing sticks anymore, because you've learned to let it pass. This mental exercise doesn't require brute force, but continuous awareness. Every time someone tries to hit you with rude words, harsh actions, or manipulative gestures, pause. Remember who you are. You don't need to retaliate, nor swallow the poison. Calm neutrality is one of the greatest weapons of the wise. As Marcus Aurelius said, the best revenge is to be unlike those who hurt you. Now I invite you to reflect and comment below. I release what isn't mine, because simply writing it already starts to set you free. And in the next technique, we'll explore an even more powerful way to protect your peace without isolating yourself from the world. Technique 2. What you tolerate. You reinforce. The trap of emotional passivity. How many times have you let a disrespectful comment, an offensive attitude, or a veiled criticism slide just to keep the peace? At first, it seems noble. You think, better not to make a fuss. But inside, something breaks. Silence that should signal strength turns into accumulated resentment. And so you keep storing what should have been cleansed. What you tolerate today shapes how the world treats you tomorrow. Seneca said, the first punishment of injustice is the guilt it leaves. The second is being forgiven when you don't deserve it. When you silently accept everything that hurts you without firmness, you reinforce the other person's behavior. Stoic philosophy teaches us that acceptance is not submission. Accepting what can't be changed is wisdom. But accepting the unacceptable is a loss of dignity, and that slowly erodes your inner strength. The technique here is to set silent but firm boundaries. You don't have to confront anyone with anger. Just show, through your actions, your distance, your posture, that you are no longer available for certain games. Stoic wisdom invites us to act with purpose, not impulse. It's not about shouting to be heard, but about standing so clearly that there's no doubt about your worth. In practice, that might mean not replying to certain messages, leaving toxic environments, or simply maintaining eye contact during provocations. That's emotional mastery. And the most impressive part, the less you react, the more your silence teaches. True respect isn't born from shouting. It's born from the coherence between what you accept and how you live. Epictetus reinforces this when he says, "If someone provokes you, remember it's your choice to be affected or not." That doesn't mean being indifferent. It means choosing where your emotional energy is best spent. You weren't born to waste yourself trying to fix others. You were born to grow, and sometimes growth begins when you stop tolerating what sabotages your peace. If this topic touched you somehow, write in the comments, "I don't accept what disturbs my peace." That's already a commitment to yourself. Now let's dive into a Stoic technique that transforms how you perceive criticism and judgment from others. Technique 3. Criticism doesn't define you. Learn to listen without absorbing. Have you ever felt like every criticism was a direct attack on your identity? As if being pointed at made something inside you shrink? It's natural. We're taught from an early age to seek approval. But when other people's opinions begin to outweigh your own awareness, something is out of balance. This is where Stoicism comes in as a compass. It shows you that you can listen without being contaminated. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone criticizes you justly, change. If not, move on." That changes everything. Criticism alone has no power. What gives it strength is the value you assign to it. And when you choose to observe instead of absorb, you take back control. A mind trained by reason and truth isn't shaken by outside voices. It filters, it analyzes, it chooses what to let in. The technique here is detached, active listening. Listen as if you're watching a play. Notice the sounds, the intentions, the script. But remember, you are the observer, not the wounded character. This doesn't mean being cold, but conscious. When criticism comes, ask yourself, is this about me or about their expectations? Often those who criticize are just projecting their own frustration. In practice, whenever criticism hits you, write it down and read it as if it were about someone else. That emotional distance reveals the truth. Most of the opinions we receive are reflections, not diagnoses. Don't let the judgment of someone who doesn't live your struggle define your worth. You are the only one who knows the fullness of your journey. Seneca said, "The approval of fools is a disgrace." That reminds us that not every criticism deserves a response, and not every compliment means you're right. Your goal isn't to please, it's to grow. And growth hurts less when you learn to separate what's a lesson from what's emotional trash. That's one of the greatest immunities Stoicism offers, the power to hear everything, without carrying anything that doesn't uplift you. If that made sense to you, comment below. I listen, but I only keep what builds me. Next, we'll explore how silent presence can be your greatest protection against heavy environments and negative people. Technique 4. Silent presence disarms. Negativity, the power of Stoic neutrality. Have you ever walked into a room and felt a weight in the air? Silent tension, sharp words, heavy stares? Often the environment is already charged, and the common mistake is trying to fix everything with effort, explanations, or reactions. But Stoicism shows another way out. Neutral, silent presence. It's not running away. It's mastery. You don't fight chaos with noise, but with posture. Marcus Aurelius taught, "The serene man is like a rock. Waves crash against it, but it remains unmoved." Being neutral isn't being passive. It's being so centered that you're not dragged by the emotional tides around you. True strength doesn't shout. It imposes itself with silence. When you walk in with awareness, free from judgment or the need to be liked, your energy speaks for you, and that alone changes everything. The Stoic technique here is active neutrality. That means being present with attention, but not tension. Observe without absorbing. Be in the middle without getting entangled. You don't need to defend yourself from everything or explain yourself to everyone. The wise understand that most conflicts come from the need to control others' perceptions, and when you let go of that need, you free yourself. In practice, this could mean remaining silent during provocations, responding with a calm look, or simply not engaging in pointless arguments. This kind of behavior confuses negative people because they expect to fight and find peace. They expect reaction and find presence, and that disarms them. As Epictetus said, "No one can upset you without your permission." And the more you practice this, the more you realize your energy is your shield. You don't need to say a word to protect yourself. When your mind is at peace, your body reflects it. And those who feed on provocation lose when they find no one to react. Controlled silence is the response of the wise and the end of petty emotional battles. If this idea inspired you, comment below. My presence is my shield. And in the next technique, we'll talk about how to deal with people who always try to knock you off balance, and how Stoic philosophy responds to this kind of emotional test. Technique 5. Difficult people are tests, not threats. Turn discomfort into training. Have you ever felt like certain people exist just to push your buttons? They know exactly where to poke, what to say, how to act to shake your emotions, and no matter how much you try to stay calm, something inside you tenses up. But Stoicism teaches us to change our perspective. These people aren't obstacles, they're involuntary trainers of your emotional discipline. Epictetus reminds us, difficulty reveals the man. And that applies to relationships too. Every encounter with a difficult person is a disguised opportunity, a chance to test your patience, train your responses, and strengthen your self-control. What once was irritation now becomes training. What once felt like a threat becomes a step in your evolution. The key is understanding that you can't control the other, only yourself. The technique here is perspective reconfiguration. Instead of thinking, "This person annoys me," change to, "This person trains me." It sounds simple, but this shift is powerful. It takes you out of the victim role and places you in the learner's seat, and that gives you strength. When you understand that every provocation is a mirror for your own growth, the other person loses the power to hurt you. In practice, use this method. When faced with a toxic attitude, take a deep breath and think, "This is my chance to practice who I want to become." Want to be calmer? That rude comment is your training ground. Want to be wiser? That baseless criticism is your test of silence. Stoic philosophy is alive and reveals itself in the very moments when everything inside you wants to explode. Seneca reinforces, "An insult only hurts those who believe they deserve it." When you know yourself, no one can belittle you. And when you're strong from within, what used to be a trigger becomes just noise. Remember, you're not here to change others. You're here to refine yourself through them, and that requires courage, consistency, and daily awareness. If this insight made sense to you, comment, "Difficult people train me, they don't destroy me." Next, we'll explore how mindfulness of the present moment can become your armor against any emotional attack. Technique 6. Those who live in the present don't drown in drama. The power of Stoic presence. How many times have you felt overwhelmed by things that haven't even happened yet, or brooding over past wounds as if they were still alive? A distracted mind becomes a prisoner of memories, ghosts, and future fears. That's where drama is born. But Stoicism points to a way out. The present is the only place where your strength lives. Everything else is noise. Marcus Aurelius said, "Each person's life is what their thoughts make it." When your thoughts are anchored in the now, you don't get lost in speculation or drown in regrets. You see things as they are, not as your anxiety distorts them. The present gives you clarity, and clarity in turn is the greatest antidote to emotional chaos. The Stoic technique here is rooting yourself in present reality. Whenever you notice yourself being dragged by toxic thoughts, what if they reject me? What if everything goes wrong? What if I'm not enough? Pause, breathe, look around. What's happening right now? You're breathing, you're hearing, you're here. A present mind becomes impenetrable to panic, manipulation, and outside negativity. In practice, try this Stoic focus exercise. Touch an object, observe a color, listen to a sound, and say to yourself, "Only now exists." The more you anchor yourself, the less space there is for chaos. You don't need to fight thoughts, you just need to bring your attention back to where your life is really happening, right now. That's presence, that's power. Epictetus taught, "We are not disturbed by what happens, but by our opinion about what happens." And most of our opinions come from fear of the future or pain of the past. By cultivating presence, you disable those traps. You begin responding to the world with awareness, not automatic reflexes. Peace doesn't come from escaping, it comes from being fully in the now. If that resonated with you, comment, "I return to the now, where my strength lives." Next, we'll explore how wisely choosing your relationships is a vital part of your shield against emotional negativity. Technique 7, connections that heal, not drain. Choose who occupies your mental space. Have you ever noticed how some people make you feel lighter while others exhaust you just by being near? Exhaustion doesn't always come from what we do, but from who we choose to be with. Stoicism teaches that true emotional freedom begins when you become the guardian of your inner space. And that includes filtering relationships that either nourish or drain your soul. Seneca said, "Avoid those who constantly complain, their disease is contagious." This is a harsh but liberating truth. Constant exposure to negative people, those who dwell in criticism, complaint, or manipulation, gradually weakens your mental clarity. It's not about judging others, but about protecting yourself. Your energy is limited, and every emotional connection is an investment. You need to learn to invest where peace is returned. The technique here is relational curation. That means calmly and consciously observing who brings you closer to your essence and who pulls you away. Ask yourself, does this presence lift me up or drag me down? The Stoic sage doesn't isolate himself from the world, but chooses carefully where to plant his attention. Because wherever your attention lives, your energy grows, and wherever your energy grows, your life blossoms. In practice, start with small boundaries. Less time with those who confuse you, more time with those who inspire you. Fewer explanations for those who don't try to understand, more silence with those who just want to argue. It's not about cutting people off, but putting each one in their right place within you. Some stay on the surface, others go to the center. Stoicism is this internal architecture. You decide who occupies which space. Marcus Aurelius stated, "Choose not to be harmed and you won't be." This applies to relationships too. When you stop giving yourself to any connection, you stop being a victim of any word. Your mind becomes a house of peace, and only those who respect that sanctuary may enter. That's relational wisdom. That's Stoic strength in the form of emotional discernment. If this teaching touched something inside you, comment, "I only let stay what strengthens me." Now let's talk about how your view of the world shapes how you react to evil, and how Stoicism can transform your perception into your ultimate shield. Technique 8. What hurts you reveals where you still need to grow. Turn pain into wisdom. Have you ever stopped to think that what bothers you most in others reveals something unresolved within yourself? What hurts touches. What touches teaches. And what teaches transforms. Stoicism invites us to take a deep, uncomfortable look. Every emotional pain is a chance for self-discovery. The evil that hits you today is often the map to where you still need to evolve. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes invincible when it doesn't interpret events as evil." That changes everything, because it shows you that real power isn't in controlling the world, but in reinterpreting what happens. When you see offense as an alert, criticism as training, and betrayal as redirection, you take back control. External evil loses its ability to break you from the inside. The Stoic technique here is immediate reframing. Don't wait years to understand why something hurt you. Ask now, what is this revealing about me? Maybe it's your need for approval, your fear of abandonment, your tendency to control everything. When you recognize it, you transcend. And when you transcend, you grow stronger. The evil stops being evil. It becomes raw material. In practice, that means treating your triggers as mirrors. If someone disrespects you and it deeply wounds you, maybe there's an unresolved sense of inadequacy within you. Stoicism isn't about denying pain, but using it as a compass. Where it hurts, something needs attention. And when you honor that pain with awareness, it dissolves. and gives way to clarity. Seneca said, "Adversity awakens abilities that in favorable conditions would have remained dormant. The wound is the portal. The problem is the teacher." When you live with that vision, nothing dominates you anymore. Everything becomes raw material for your freedom. Other people's negativity doesn't enter anymore, because your mind is now too busy growing to take offense. You may have realized that true protection from negativity isn't in what you do, but in who you choose to be in the midst of chaos. The world will remain noisy, confusing, provocative, but your mind no longer needs to mirror that. You've learned to be the rock in the storm, the presence under pressure, the light amid the weight. And I ask you now, which of these practices will you start using today? What small action can you take to reclaim the peace you've been losing to others? Sometimes a single conscious choice is enough to completely transform how you respond to the world. What once shook you now strengthens you, and what once confused you now brings you clarity. If this helped you in any way, imagine what's coming next. Subscribe to the channel to keep receiving content that nourishes your clarity, mental strength, and inner freedom. Share this video with someone who needs to learn to protect themselves without shutting down. And remember, Stoic wisdom doesn't change the world, but it changes you, and that changes everything.